Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrind Jaya Jaya Śrī Caitanya Jaya Nityaānanda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Vande Guru Nisha Bhakta Nisha Nisha Vatarakan Tat Prakasham Tat Shakti Krishna Chaitanya Sangyakam Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityaānanda Sahoditav Gaudade Pushpavanatau Chitrau Sandau Tamonudau Granthira Rambhakori Mangala Charana Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tinira Smarana Hoya Bigana Binashana Anayasa Sapal Nija Vanchita Purana Shri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Arasha Caitanya-caritāmṛta Kahe Krishna Dasa Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityaānanda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Dear worshipable devotees, thank you so much for joining this reading of Nectarian Chaitanya Caritāmṛta. We are reading this chapter 5, Adi Lila, text 41, which talks about the secondary quadruple expansion. Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, and how they are purely transcendental. And there's a very long purport which we are in the middle of. Probably it will take 1 or 2 more days, but our goal is to keep reading Prabhupada's books and keep purifying ourselves. So with that, let's move on to the place where we paused yesterday and start. Pradyumna, the third manifestation, appears from Sankarshana. Those who are especially intelligent worship this Pradyumna expansion of Sankarshana as the principle of intelligence. The goddess of fortune always chants the glories of Pradyumna in the place known as Ilavrata Varsha. And she always serves him with great devotion. His complexion appears golden and sometimes bluish like new monsoon clouds in the sky. He is the origin of the creation of the material world, and he has invested his energies, he has invested his creative principle in the Cupid. It is by his direction only that all men and demigods and other living entities function with energy for regeneration. Aniruddha, the fourth of the quadruple expansions, is worshipped by great sages and psychologists as the principle of the mind. His complexion is similar to the bluish hue of a blue cloud. He engages in maintenance of the cosmic manifestation and is the super soul of Dharma, the deity of religiosity. The Manus, the progenitors of mankind, and the Devatas, the demigods. The Moksha Dharma, Vedic scripture, indicates that Pradyumna is the deity of the total mind, whereas Aniruddha is the deity of the total ego. But previous statements regarding the quadruple forms are confirmed in the Pancharatra Tantras in all respects. In the Laghu Bhāgavata-sevayā, Purva 5.86 to 100, there is a lucid explanation of the inconceivable potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, negating Shankaracharya's statements, the Mahavaraha Purana declares, Sarve nitya shashvatascha dehastasya paramatmanaha hanopadana rahitanaiva prakriti kvachit. All the varied expansions of the personality of Godhead are transcendental and eternal, and all of them repeatedly descend to all the different universes of the material creation. Their bodies composed of eternity, bliss, and knowledge are everlasting. There is no chance of their decaying, for they are not creations of the material world. Their forms are concentrated spiritual existence, always complete with all spiritual qualities and devoid of material contamination. That's all. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Thank you, dear worshipable devotees, for joining. We are continuing our discussion about Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. So here Rupa Goswami is explaining in Laghu bhāgavata-sevayā. Is quoting different verses, different aspects to disapprove the points of Śrī Caitanya-caritāmṛta. And we discussed this in quite some length, and I came across this beautiful verse which we thought we can read in this connection, like why Shankaracharya did what he did. So there is a very beautiful verse in this connection. Let's read that. This is again in Chaitanya Caritāmṛta, which we will read later, but Madhya Lila 6.182. Mayavadam asat shastram prichanam audham uchyate maeva vihitam devi kalau brahmana murtina. Lord Shiva confirmed the goddess of Durga, his wife, the superintendent of the material world. Basically, Lord Shiva is speaking this. In the age of Kali Yuga, I will take the form of a Brahmana. Brahmana Murtina, in the body of a Brahmana. Kalau, in the age of Kali. Kalau Brahmana Murtina, Lord Shiva is speaking. And what will I do? Explain the Vedas through false scriptures in the atheistic way, similar to Buddhist philosophy. Similar to Buddhist. So Mayavadyam, Asat Shastra. Asat. Sat means truth or pure or eternal. Asat. This is not the real Sat. Asato ma Satgamaya. We say this in the Niti Shastra or in the Vedic prayers. From Asat, we have to go to Sat. But now question may come, why Lord Shiva, the purest of the devotees, Vaishvanam Yatha Shambhu, is giving Asat Shastra? We have to go back to the pendulum, right? Because Buddhism, ultimately, there are some sacrifices, animal sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas, right? We see like Ashwamedh Yagya and etc. But the intent is that the animal gets a higher birth, and it's not for the sense gratification of the Brahmanas who are doing that yagya. This was maybe in the previous yugas practically, in the previous ages. In the Kali Yuga, the culture started to degrade, and people started to do animal sacrifice for the tongue and started to concoct different wrong ideas from the scriptures. Therefore, even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, don't be caught up in the flowery languages of the Vedas. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva was not happy and satisfied even after compiling so many Shastras, Puranas, Upanishads, etc., until he glorified Vedeshcha sarva eva vedyo. His spiritual master Narad Muni told that from all the Vedas, Krishna is to be known until you glorify the Supreme Lord. And then he wrote Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the unallowed glories of the Supreme. Then he was happy. Who knows a book better than the author himself? Who can explain Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam better than Vyasadeva, right? The literary incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So it's like the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the product of the maturest spiritual state of Vyasadeva. That's Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So therefore, although Shankaracharya being a devotee, although the incarnation of Lord Shiva, we don't accept that. Why? Because he came for a purpose. He gave Chand Baudha, as mentioned here. What did he preach? Prichanam, Channa or Chanda Baudha Uchyate. He gave the teachings of Lord Buddha in this hidden way, right? So the one extreme was the scriptures used for sense gratification, killing the animals, not for their good benefit, but for sense gratification. Buddha came, forget all this, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Ignored the scriptures. Scriptures teach non-violence, or scriptures teach violence, killing of animals, forget about it. But look at now. Practically, even what to speak of people trying to follow Buddhism, even the Buddhists, like the monks, those who have taken like the full robes and whatever their process is, red robes or orange robes, whatever even they are eating non-veg, right? What to speak of the people who are trying to follow Buddhism? I mean, because again, sense gratification or sense control without yoga or the connection to Supreme is like the lower taste cannot be given up without connecting to higher taste. So the higher taste is of bhakti. Okay, control your tongue by taking Krishna Prasad. Eat samosa, but offer to Krishna. Eat gulab jamun, but offer to Krishna. That everyone can do. That's easy. Not that difficult. And it takes us to the highest path. So this was Lord Buddha. He preached, this was Shankaracharya. So very well documented in the scriptures. But unfortunately, still people. Therefore, we respect Shankaracharya. We respect Lord Buddha. But we don't accept their teachings. Not because we disrespect them, but because they are them. Like, for example, a teacher, in the second class may say, 5 minus, 2 minus, let's say 5 minus 2. I don't know, like second class person can do it, like second grade person can do it, maybe, right? 5 minus 2. You get the point, right? But if someone asks like, okay, what about 2 minus 5? The teacher will say, no, you 2 minus 5 is not possible. Correct? How can you subtract a bigger number from a smaller number? No, you have 5 fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you subtract 1 and 2. Now you have 3 left, so that's 3. Now, if you have 2 fingers, 1 and 2, how will you subtract 5, 1, 2? Where will the other 3 come from? It's not possible. That's how the teacher would explain, and which is fine. But when the same teacher is explaining to a 6th grader, then the teacher, basically is giving a higher principle than what he or she taught in the 2nd grade. So that's basically the Bhagavat philosophy, is much higher principle. The bhakti is the essence, the core. And Krishna says that and while speaking this, nothing else will remain unknown. So just thought to share some more about this background about the covered Buddhism, and they're supported by a verse. Here again, back to what I read, Sankarsana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. They are different aspects or different in the sense about their location, the primarily one is the deity of the total mind, one deity of total ego, etc. is also mentioned here. But the essence is they are completely spiritual and without any material contamination. That's the last point in all respects. Yeah. Any comments before we move to the next or paragraph? Everyone good so far, or is it a little dry?
Prabhuji, thank you so much for explaining. But I have a kind of a weird question. Don't know if that is how much, but just tingling in my mind. In that pendulum you were showing, right? It goes back and then it goes forward slowly, like improving the knowledge stage by stage. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, and we are saying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is whom we are following, and right, along with our gurus and masters and so. So in the avataras, Krishna mentioned there are many avataras, right? Out of which 10 are considered as noted as famous or considered, basically. In that, Kalki is the last avatar, right? So, so is it like Kalki? I don't know. After Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there could be another avatara which could be Kalki, and then something more would be preached in the pendulum again, going for. That's why I said weird question, but please.
No, it's a good question. Basically, you're just trying to understand where Kalki would fit in the pendulum, if I get it rightly, right?
That's one question. And if in case Kalki is at the end, because as per the 10 avatars, Kalki is considered as the 10th avatara, right? So which is the last avatar. I do not know if the total list, in the complete total list, where would Kalki, as you said, where would Kalki?
Multiple questions fit in. I'll try to respond. How many of you know what's the life of Kali Yuga? How many years Kali Yuga duration? Lakshya knows? What's the duration of Kali Yuga?
I think it's like 1,600.
1,600. It's a little more than that. 5,000 years have already passed. Krishna, when he winded up as pastime, that was 5,000 years back, right? And that time, what age was going on? Which yuga?
Dwapar.
Dwapar. And Dwapar was about to end, right? And Kali Yuga began from that time, approximately. So what's the age of Kali Yuga? Who knows? No one knows?
432,000.
432,000.
32,000.
432,000 years is the age of one Kali Yuga. How many years have passed? 5,000. We just discussed, right? So what percentage is 5,000 out of 432? Let's take 500. Out of 500,000, 500K, 5K is what? 1%, correct? Approximately. So only 1% of Kali Yuga is over, approximately. Kalki Avatar will come at the end of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga has just began. Kali Yuga is a very early stage. 1% is over, approximately. And it's also mentioned where he'll come, what he will do. When he comes, the first 10,000 years of Kali Yuga or the next 10,000 actually years, Prabhupada said that this ISKCON movement will stay. So the golden years. We have appeared in the golden age where the golden avatar came just 500 years back. from the lifetime of Brahma, 500 years is just like few seconds back he came. Compared to 400 trillion years, the lifetime of Brahma, he just came like 5 seconds back. And we are born in that golden phase. So now the average lifespan is maybe 80, 90, whatever they say, 100, but hardly anyone lives till 100, more or less 75, 80, whatever. So at the end of Kali Yuga, the average lifespan of the human beings will be less than 20 years. The average height, everyone will be like dwarf, like 2 feet, 3 feet. So all these things are mentioned. Then he will come on the horse, on the white horse, and kill. All because everyone will be demoniac except for maybe few rare souls. So we are very fortunate that we are born in a very, very golden phase of Kali Yuga, where Srila Prabhupada, the divine Senapati Avatar, the Senapati Bhakta, the commander-in-chief of Lord Chaitanya's army came to give us this holy names. We are so fortunate. Kalki Avatar will not speak Bhagavatam class. His Bhagavatam class will be his sword. He'll just keep chopping everyone's head because, and different avatars. For example, their activities are different. Lila Avatar, Manvantara Avatar, Guna Avatar, all these. Like Nrsingadev came, he didn't give Bhagavatam class to Hiranyakashipu. He didn't try to teach him. He says his Bhagavatam class ripped apart, right? The stone-like chest of Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu vakshaha shilatanka nakhalaye. So the point is, point number 1, Kalki Avatar will come at a very later age of Kali Yuga. Point number 2, Lord Chaitanya is Avatari. He's not just, he's the Chanda avatar also referred, but he is Krishna's, what is this famous slok? Jai Gaura, say Krishna, say Jagannath. That's one sloka. Jai Gaura, that the same Krishna, same Gauranga, same Jagannath, they're the same. And then what's that verse? Nanda Balarāma hoilo nithai. What's that verse? Brajendra Nandan.
Yeah.
Brajendra Nandan Jai Sachi Sutta hoilo sai. Brajendra Nandan, that is Krishna. Brajendra, that the one who is Brajendra Nandan, Sachi Sutta hoilo sai. Sachi Sutta means the son of Sachi Devi. Balarāma hoilo nithai, and Balaram became Nityaānanda Prabhu, whom we are reading about. The chapter is entitled Lord Nityaānanda Balaram. Now he has given this topmost message of pure bhakti, the prema bhakti, which is available very, very rarely. He is given to the Jagai and Madai like people like us. So we are born at a very fortunate time. That's certainly one of the facts. So the answer is that the best knowledge is available, the best teachers are available, the Supreme Lord has given this, the pure devotees have carried it along. So we could not be any more fortunate. Even the demigods are praying to be born here in this time. They are not so fortunate either. So does that help or clarify some of your questions? Or
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I think there is one sloka in Bhagavad Gita. Obviously, I don't remember the sloka, but the purport that or in Bhagavatam, the purport that I read, don't worry too much about finding out what is Krishna or what Krishna said. Just go with, because it's very hard to find out it. There could be avatars from Krishna again coming in, but I think you explained it good, clearly, that what we have is already the greatest. So following this one would give the mukti. Why to wait for something else to come, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
And there will be a lot more avatars. So 10 avatars are just like, there are there are unlimited avatars of the Supreme Lord. The book we have is also the avatar. There's a very, very sweet verse in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, which I like. Let's see if I can find it. I think it's on page 31. Or let me see if I can find that. Maybe it's, I really like, yeah. Maya Mugdha Jiver Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan Jivera Kripaya Kaila Krishna Veda Puran. In the introduction of Bhagavad Gita, the forgetful living entities are conditioned souls having forgotten their relationship with the Supreme Lord and are engrossed in thinking of material activities. Just to transfer their thinking power to the spiritual sky, Krishna, Dwapai, and Vyas has given a great number of Vedic literatures. So these Vedic literatures are basically Krishna's incarnations. They are not different from Krishna. We should not treat Bhagavad Gita as an ordinary book or Bhāgavatam, Śrī Caitanya. These are when Krishna descends in the form of book. It's Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, etc. The liquid form of God, Ganga Mata, all the holy rivers, Radha Kund, Sham Kund, they are basically Bhagavan. The deities, right? The deities are not Pratima Nohitami Sakshat Brajendra Nandana. They're not just some clay or metal pieces. They are Sakshat Rajendra Nandan. So they are Krishna. This is also descending in the form of deities, in the form of Mahaprasad. That's also Krishna's, is descending in so many ways. In the form of Govardhan Shila, other Shaligram Shilas. When he descends in the form of stone, he is Govardhan Shila. And like that, when he descends in the form of plant, it's Tulsi Devi. So many ways he descends. These are all, why? Because the jiva is full of forgetfulness. The jiva but Krishna is arranging multiple by holy places, holy men, holy dhams, Prabhupada, Yath Yatra, festivals, in books, in prashads. Yenekin prakar, somehow we can engage ourselves in Krishna consciousness. So he's so merciful. Okay, let's read a little bit more further. Who wants to read this section? Who didn't get a chance yesterday? Maybe they can read first. Anyone who didn't get a chance yesterday and wants to read? Okay, looks like everyone got.
Who I can read?
Yes, please.
Confirming these statements, the Narada Pancharatra asserts, Monir Jatha Vibhagena Nila Pitabdhibir Juta Rupa Bhedam Abapnoti Dhyana Vedat Tatha Uchchuta. The infallible personality of Godhead can manifest his body in different ways according to different modes of worship. Just as the Vaidujya jam can manifest itself in various colors, such as blue and yellow. Each incarnation is distinct from all the others. This is possible by the Lord's inconceivable potency, by which he can simultaneously represent himself as one, as various partial forms, and as the origin of these partial forms. Nothing is impossible for his inconceivable potencies. Krishna is one without a second, but he manifests himself in different bodies, as stated by Narada in the 10th canto of Srimad-Bhāgavatam. chitram batetad ekena bopusha jugapat prithak griheshu di asta sahasram striya eka udabahat. It is wonderful indeed that one Krishna has simultaneously become different Krishnas in 16,000 palaces to accept 16,000 queens as his wives. Bhagavatam 10th canto 69th chapter, text 2. The Padma Purana also explains Shadeva Bohuda Bhutta Nirguna Purushottama Eko Bhuya Punosete Nirdosha Horir Adikrit. The same personality of Godhead, Purushottam, the original person who is always devoid of material qualities and contamination, can exhibit himself in various forms and at the same time lie down in one form. In the 10th canto of Srimad-Bhāgavatam, it is said, Jajanti ton mayas, tom boy bohu murti eko murtikam. O my Lord, although you manifest yourself in varieties of forms, you are one without a second. Therefore, pure devotees concentrate upon you and worship only you. Bhagavatam 10th canto 40 chapter 7 verse. In the Kurma Purana it is said, Asthulas chonanunas choiva sthula onuschoiva sarvata avarna sarvata prakta shyama raktanto lochana. The Lord is personal, although impersonal. He is atomic, although great. He is blackish and has red eyes, although he is colorless. By material calculation, all this may appear contradictory, but if we understand that Supreme Personality of Godhead has inconceivable potencies, we can accept this fact as eternally possible in him. In our present condition, we cannot understand the spiritual activities and how they occur. But although they are inconceivable in the material context, we should not disregard such contradictory conceptions. Prabhu, should I stop here? So here we can see Srila Prabhupada is explaining that Lord Krishna is one, where we read last few days, yesterday, that Sripad Shankaracharya was giving that argument that from Vasudev, Shankarshan came, from Shankarshan Pradyumna came, and from Pradyumna Aniruddha came. But we read from Srila Rupa Goswami's Laghu Bhāgavata-samrita that it's not like that. It's from Balarāma, everybody came from, Balarāma came from Krishna. And Krishna is the one. It's not like that, that the incarnations came and Krishna's potency become weaker or smaller. It is not like that. And Prabhupada explaining here that when Krishna Narad Muni was saying that when Krishna divided himself 16,000 in 16,000 palaces, he was the same. His potency was the same. His beauty was the same. His qualities, characters, everything was the same. So, which means that it is inconceivable to us that Krishna, in one way, Krishna doesn't have any form, and other way, he has so many forms. And we see, there was also Prabhupada is explaining that he could be colorless, at the same time he has multiple color, or like mixture of color, which we don't know. And we can, we know that Krishna's, senses, by one sense, like just by eyes, he can do everything. He can hear, he can smell, he can eat prasadam just by eyes, but we cannot do that. So I mean, so all these are actually means eternal, transcendental. They are never destroyable. They are always same, absolute. Absolute means all the time it is says. There is no time, circumstances, situation. Every time is going to be the same. So that's what here I understood from these few paragraphs. Hare Kṛṣṇa Prabhu, back to you. Please add your comment.
Prabhu. I was reminded of this beautiful verse from Brahma Samhita. Deeparacharaiva hi dashantaram abhyupitya Deepayate vivvata hetu samana dharma Yastadrigeva hi vishnutaya vibhati Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. The light of one candle being communicated to the other candles, although it burns separately in them, is the same in quality. So who will elaborate? What does it mean? Anyone? Little technical. What does this mean?
So, Hare Krishna. So from one candle, we can and lighten the other candles as many as you want, and they will do the same thing. The light, heat, burn, and they will work individually. But we know from that candle, the other candle was lightened.
So there is one original candle, you know, in Diwali or something like lamp offering, we do this. There's one original lamp and we use it to light other lamps. So all the lights are pretty much same in quality, right? Even to the extent it's very hard to distinguish. But there is one original candle, and that original candle, that Adi, that primeval, that I adore, that primeval Govinda, he's the original person. Original, I can mixed up Purusha and person. He's the Adi Purusha, original person, the primeval, the cause, the everything, the one without a second, Prabhupada is mentioning. That's Krishna. Atulya. So he's that original candle from whom multiple other candles are lit up. Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Narsingha, Vamana, Kurma, etc., etc. So many avatars. Nana avatara bhuvanishu kintu. Krishna swayam sambhavat paramah pumanyo. Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So many unlimited avatars come, yet he is the original. And he remains the original. The material rules fail here. If when a person has $1 trillion, if he starts giving 100 here, 500,000 here, 10,000 here, 1 million here, 2 million here, and ultimately he will have zero left. But spiritual mathematics doesn't work like that. In spiritual life, if we share Krishna consciousness, let's say someone has been in Krishna consciousness for 1 year. Whatever he or she has learned till that point, he or she starts sharing. It's not that their knowledge or their bhakti will go down. If they're sincere and genuinely trying to share, they share with one person, they will get a lot more in their life, and that person will also be benefited. The more we share, the more we learn, the more we grow. And that's the order of Lord Chaitanya. Chant Hare Krishna, teach others. That's one point which I liked. And Vrindavan, spiritual life is a land of contradictions. Prabhupada is mentioning here, the Lord is personal, although impersonal. How do we understand that? The Lord is personal, although impersonal. He's atomic, although great. He's blackish, yet he has red eyes. although he's colorless. So interesting. Fear personifies, fears him. But when he sees Mata Yashoda, he is so fearful. Is it not? And seeing that, even Kunti Maharani speaks so many beautiful verses. Seeing that, even great Brahma gets bewildered. Oh, is this the Supreme Lord who is playing pranks with his friends? He is the one who talks about, Trividhas Narakasya Dwaram Nashnam Atmana. Lust, anger, and greed are the gateways to hell. But he's very greedy for butter. He gets angry when the butter does not come. Is he God? All the contradictions come. It's not easy to understand. It's inconceivable. Achintya. Therefore, we cannot understand the spiritual activities. Very, very hard. No? Yet we have to try to the means of great acharyas who are making them, helping us to understand this and appreciate the beauty and the greatness of God and the inconceivable nature of God. Any more thoughts anyone has? Okay, any quick comment or question before we pause for today?
So Prabhuji, sometimes when there's a contradictory statement, sometimes it, like due to false ego, creates confusion, those things. But this line today, whatever Prabhupada said at the end, although they are inconceivable in the material context, we should not disregard such contradictory conceptions. So that is a very helpful point for me going forward. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Very nice reflection. Yeah. In material, yeah, because the point is that we see it from our limited realm. If someone tells me what is beyond my conception, like even in material sense, like 50 years back, the computers were size of a big hall, correct? And they said, they said that probably this can fit in maybe not a hall, but a small store. And they said, impossible. You are just crazy, right? That's what they would say. But now that size, that memory, that processing power of that computer, which was the size of the hall, is in this tiny phone in the hand, right? At that point, no one would have comprehended that, right? So we see things from our limited perspective, right? If it cannot exist because I think it's impossible, then it's impossible. But bhakti is the descending process. It's because we are so infinitesimal. Krishna is infinite. How can a ray of sun understand the full sun? Chinmaya Bhaskara Tumi Kiranira Karna Ami. Chinmaya Bhaskara, he is the supreme sun. And Kiranira Karna. Kiran ka bhi karna hai. Like atom of a ray of sun. We are that. How can an infinitesimal understand the infinite? It's like, how can a tiny ant measure the extent or the height of Mount Sumeru? That's just to give, or those who may not be familiar, Mount Sumeru. How can a tiny ant estimate the height of Mount Everest? It's not possible, right? Because a tiny ant, the Dr. Frog's philosophy, Prabhupada gives that example. Oh, two frogs meet and the frog says, the other frog from the ocean and the one frog from the well. The frog from the well keeps saying, is your water body this big, this big, this big, trying to expand, and just explodes. So we cannot understand by our limited senses. We have to see from Shastra Chakshu. Shastra Chakshu, the eyes of scriptures. That is a process of understanding. Bhagavan tu sakshat bhagavat pranito. So, and that is bhakti yoga basically. Through bhakti we can understand. Okay, so we will continue next week from here. Śrī Caitanya-caritāmṛta ki jai, Śrī Prabhupada ki jai, Śrī Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Śrī Rupa Sanatana Bhatt Raghunath Śrī Jiva Gopal Bhattadas Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Śrī Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Pranam.